Uther this week, but we're still just going to pick up preparing for your first field trip to Gold Bell Caves. And also, I think we're still on the Sunday because we need to finish off with the meeting with Caliban's father. After that, we've got Monday through Wednesday to get through, which will mostly just be looking into stuff, grabbing bits and pieces, finding any gear or anything like that you want, and then we might call it a pause until we've got Uther back. That said, where we pick back up, last week we kind of did, I think it was like the first half of the weekend. You guys did some theater visiting. It was lots of little interactions between you and others. We had some visitation to the Witch's Nook Library. We met Vera, who had been waiting in the wings to snatch up some clout from a couple of our party members and get some help returning to some books to the lands that they belong to. Caliban.
She's from the Laments, yeah?
She seems to be half Laments, half Parisian, maybe. So one of her parents is from Laments, you would think, probably. Caliban, was there anything in particular you wanted to organize for your trip to your dad's, or are you just like getting ready and then a car is being sent round to the academy to pick up you and anyone else coming with you?
Nothing in particular, I guess, like making sure that everybody who was invited, save for Uther, is, I guess, like kind of organized.
Yeah, I think it's everyone but Clara. I think Clara's the only one that declined, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, you get everyone organized, let them know what time it will be, all that sort of stuff, Caliban. Does anyone have anything they want to do before they head off to meet Caliban's father?
Wash and dry the outfit I wore from last night, because that's like my only pair of, really nice clothes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can wash it and then with the assistance of like borrowing a crystal from the workshop, very rapidly arcanely dry it before returning the crystal.
Prestidigitation.
Prestidigitation, a classic.
David is going to enter the dorms roughly an hour and a half before leaving time. Essentially straight from the workshop. First things first, he's gonna set himself up a coffee thermos that he will be nursing for later, with some ungodly strong coffee. And then he just ditches essentially the outfit, well, his usual outfit that he's been wearing throughout his stay at the workshop, hops into the shower and gets out with a second version of exactly the same outfit because he has like 10 of those. And really nothing else besides
the Batman wardrobe, yeah.
Yeah. So picks that up, and then starts staring longingly at his coffee thermals, which might not be fully finished by the time he's done.
I could say, Daver has been working non-stop for the last, 2-3 days. Is he, bags under his eyes, or is he still holding it together?
Oh, he bags under his eyes and he's holding it together because he is running on caffeine, and I feel like I can wager, given the amount of, let's say, shell manipulation he is capable of, he has some neat tricks that he can pull there to keep himself more vital than he normally.
Okay. So, Caliban, you have one caffeine-addicted colleague, one well-dressed street thief, and a very quiet Uther in tow. Clara, are you just hanging around at this point, or is that something you wanted to do with your Sunday morning while everyone else is sort of getting ready? Well, it'd be Sunday evening at this point, I guess. Ooh, Clara?
Clara?
She's fallen down the hole.
Oh no.
Oh, there we go. You came back.
Okay. I'm back.
You were saying something and it was just disappearing into the void, I think.
I'm gonna settle down with my slime book that I borrowed from Vera.
Absolutely, you settled down with your tome of slime. Just reading through and trying to just obtain as much knowledge about slimes in a general sense, or was there something you were sort of looking for today?
I think for now I just need to obtain as much general information. I can worry about specifics later, I think.
Yeah, sitting down with the slime book, you'd probably spend your evening delving into that a bit. You'd work out that slimes seem to have came into being a little bit before the goddess left. They weren't always around, so there's some question as to like why they suddenly came into being. There's no grand story like some creatures have with the goddess conjuring something, but there's also no like vile tale of the scourge creating slimes in order to bring about the ruin of certain architecture or things like that. They just seem to have came into existence. It wasn't during the era of grief, and not much is known about them beyond little small cultural tales of them popping up, eating waste products, and sometimes causing the trouble that they do. I think one of the more interesting pieces you read is that, like, the idea of removing slimes and getting rid of them is more of like a city thing. The bigger the settlement is, the more of a problem some sort of like infrastructure organization has with them. Small settlements don't have too much of a problem with them. They can be annoyances at times, but mostly it's okay. And then, you know, you keep delving through books about the anatomy, the endoslime being this covering, the internal part, the core, how it generates stuff, and all that sorts of stuff you kind of get deep into later on past all the cultural information about the slimes. But yeah, after everyone's prepped and ready to go visit Caliban's family, you guys head out to the front of the building where I don't want to say a limo because it's not quite, it's a slightly stretched vehicle that's big enough to carry multiple people. It definitely has like that old Rolls-Royce type feeling to it, with the big hood ornament and big wheel arches, just a little bit more stretched out. Crystal sort of embedded into the structure of the vehicle as well. Your Major Domo is there to greet you as he gets out of the passenger side, the driver being still behind the wheel, bows to you, Caliban, and says, "I have made all the arrangements you wish me to, Master Caliban. These must be your schoolmates?"
Most of them, yes.
Very well. Please, enter the car. And he walks around the side to open the door for everyone else.
This is very fancy.
You could say bougie.
I don't know that word.
Don't worry, we'll procure you a thesaurus later.
What, Neil? What?
I like that the word bougie is a bougie word for bougie.
They've reclaimed the slur.
Getting into the vehicle, it's like soft white interior. There's a crystal glow as there's a thin crystal rod that runs along the ceiling that provides the internal lights. The windows aren't tinted, so to speak, but they are stained glass essentially, so as you look through them the light comes through colored. It's very soft in there. It's also still somewhat noisy, as the arcane engines on vehicles like this are not quiet. This car is a little older and therefore it isn't shielded against it, so there is a rumble from the engine that basically like melts through the vehicle to the back area where you guys are traveling from. getting in the vehicle, the last time you were in a car was with the Fjordis family. Their vehicle would have taken a slightly different route to the path you guys take today. This is the scenic route, as it were, whereas the Fjordis family was very concerned about getting to the academy on time. It takes you up on some of the bridge highways that lead up and over district walls. It gives you a view from above of various districts that you pass over the top of. The buildings sort of poke up beside you on either side, letting you see into tall administrative buildings as you're heading north. You can see one of the major train yards that belongs to the 3T's headquarters. This is like all the major military trains housed in here. You see some of the train artillery, the bigger, proper, like, mobilized battle stations that can run along the tracks, essentially. Some of them using 3 or 4 locomotives wide, and they take up an entire train lane as they travel as one, unionized unit. That was hard to say. United unit might be a better way of putting it. But yeah, there's like full-on bases that can be driven out along the tracks. They can't go down some of the smaller routes, but like the major links between Trismere, Empress City, the eastern trade cities, there are like military bases that can literally ride out on trains, essentially. You see all of that in the distance, but what really draws your eye is you come up and over a bridge that heads out over the lake of the Lake District. At this point, the sun is dipping. It's coming through the purple crystal marquee field, and it gives the surface of the water as it ripples this, like, purple sparkle effect. You know, like when sunlight hits a wave and you get shimmers of bright white, like glints of silver. It's like that, but purple light that comes across like glints off of the surface of the water that's being hit by the winds. And the car steadily roves over the bridge, forward and along. I don't know if there's anything of all of that that you wanted to take a particular interest in, or anything that catches your eye.
I think, I mean, as David is slightly zonked out, his brain's still half full of the various calculations he had to do, etc. But he is taking a look out of the window, uncertain as what to do otherwise, and just take in a bit of the city, and a bit more of an overview, because he hasn't been out a terrible amount, and thus doesn't have the best like general map of the city in his mind. So he establishes that a bit more, but just looking around, trying to keep.
It's not as good a view as you definitely had from the lookout tower from the dinner, but in the same sense it gives you a better idea of the distances that you've traveled in the past using the underground, because before, when you're enclosed in that space, you don't really understand. You travel for very quickly for a short amount of time. This gives you, a much better picture of what it is to go between East Academy and the lake to the north, which felt pretty close for a while, but this car journey goes on for about 30 or so plus minutes, and that's how long it takes you to reach the bridge from East Academy, despite the fact the roads are pretty clear and there's nothing in your way. You're going up and down these highway bridge type structures that go over the city.
So I'm basically realizing this city is a whole lot bigger than I previously had in mind, essentially.
Yeah, each district being roughly the size of some cities that you have either traveled through or seen pictures of before. Vatira, anything stand out to you, or are you just observing the sights?
Probably more observing the sights for now, kind of overtaken by the strange and alien beauty of it. Because everything is new to her. Like, can go out to the Fortis and see stuff and it's new, and then go out and take a slightly different route and still stuff she's never seen before in her life.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
she's just
been in the city for a few weeks now and still only really scratched the surface of even your own district, as you've been kind of circling around, occasionally heading outside of it. But there is so much in this city left to be discovered as you're looking out at sometimes the same site from just a different angle. Caliban, how are you feeling in the car, taking your schoolmates to go see your family home? Is there any sort of emotion that sits inside you more than anything, or are you just calm?
More, be a little impatient.
This is not the first journey you've taken like this across the city. It's not novel to you. You're just eager to get home.
The sights, like, I guess, from the car are not new to him, definitely.
No, you've seen this 100 or more times before. Eventually the car gets into the Lake District. You go further from the lake where your family is, closer to essentially the northern border wall, not quite, right against it, but pretty close to it. You can see the border wall from some of the upper floors of your family estate. As the car gets closer, you see the grounds of the Von Helig family, where the Fjordis family had built don't get me wrong, a big house, but they had left most of their grounds to, well, literally that, like gardens and other structures of that kind. What you find is the Von Helig family has built a true manor with their space, surrounded by a tall-ish wall topped with ornately cut, is it topiary, where someone cuts hedges into certain shapes? I think that's the word I'm looking for. These topiaried shapes into the top of the hedges. The car comes around through a gate that is being opened by two individuals that were awaiting, and you drive up into a central, I don't want to say courtyard, because it's kind of between two arms of the manor, but the gardens and everything is sort of fit into this space where the cars can pull around and then go into a garage. The house is huge. Each of the wings of this house is about the size of the Fjordis family home, and that's the guest and servant wings. The main structure of the building extends back from there and is truly ginormous. We're talking marble columns, multiple stories upwards at the tallest points. It's pristine white, lined with gold. Stone that was mined across the Zemessian waste and dragged here back from the coast where Zemessa's old capital still sits, because this is a piece of architecture that was pretty much lifted and moved from the homeland in recognition of where this family's origins lies. All that time ago, it stands here as a piece of living history in a sense, and you can see it in the way the language is carved into stonework. You can see it with the way it's been repaired but never fully fixed. It's still weathered. The history is carved and worn into the bones of the building in front of you.
Caliban, how rich are you?
Just looks at her and he just smirks.
That is a truly, just like to reference that, just this, like these two wings together are pretty much a home settlement and the surrounding area. It's just, what do you even do with that kind of wealth?
Look very
It's
pretty with it.
ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous.
For reference, how big is the manor compared to the academy?
Do you know what? They're somewhat comparable. The academy is technically bigger just because of the amount of space between some of the structures. But if you were to compress all the buildings together, technically the manor home would be bigger.
So in overall area, the academy wins, but in like build area, in building,
Yeah, this place wins out. It's bigger than the academy would be. The doors are opened for you by members of staff that you didn't see approach the car from the outside. They just seem to have been in waiting, ready to receive the car. The doors are opened. A big double set of doors is wide open. It's almost like stepping back in time, though. You see a red carpet leading into a structure that wears its age on its sleeves. And there are torches lit. Some of them producing an amount of smoke that goes into vents that have been built into the structure that channel smoke out of it. But the smell of smoke is still somewhat pervasive within the building. There are candles and chandeliers and light of all manner, and yet darkness still creeps in the very corners of the room. There is no flamed light that can fully illuminate a space of this size. Reflective surfaces are used to create a feeling of brightness in some areas, and as you're looking down this corridor, you can see on the right hand side there is like huge grand windows that provide the best possible light, but with the sun going down, there is like darkness in every corner. Yeah.
Spooky, isn't it?
It's I don't know.
Would it be remiss to say that it sort of resembles like a very sterile dungeon?
Yeah, it's dungeon-ish, but like you said, sterile because it's nice and clean. And there are grandeurs on display, old suits of armors, oil paintings of your family line lining the corridors, displays of gold and other materials as well. It's like someone moved into a dungeon and decorated it very lavishly.
I am reminded of the castle from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that's a
That
good
is,
shout.
that's, yeah.
So now I think we've gone through like her being very impressed, to just sort of looking up at like all the dark corners, like,
Is there a painting? Is there like any particular painting of Caliban there?
Not in these corridors. This is all like going back maybe a few hundred years. But in the dining room that you are heading to would be the family portrait of you, your mother, and yourself. You, your mother, and father up above the table, basically. Absolutely massive.
Like looking around, looking somewhat uncomfortable between the under all those eye rings. If we just say it's big, it's impressive, but it's also so empty. It's like where are the people? Is this just here to sit like this?
Caliban just sort of shrugs, like, I guess.
Just feels kind of lifeless, I guess.
yeah.
Oh,
Is it always like
looking
this?
forward to dinner. Oh, yep. Apologies.
Oh, were you two like interrupting each other?
Yes.
Yes.
Adhira, what did you mean
Was
to
it
say?
always like this? I just imagine the childhood should be brighter.
For some.
The major domo essentially leads you through the manor into one of the one of, I think it's about 5 dining halls, if I remember correctly. Not the main one that would be used for huge events, but more like the family dining hall, the space that would be used if it was a dinner for just Caliban, his parents, has been picked out. Heading inside, like I said, the painting in here is of Caliban, his 2 parents. It's that very traditional portrait of the dad, the mum to the side, and the son slightly lower down. You see the portrait before you see the man. The portrait shows you a tall, broad-shouldered, sort of salt and pepper, a little bit of a beard, but like that, it's a very like quiffed hair that goes over with streaks of silver that's reminiscent of Caliban's pure like white hair. Yeah, it's more more salt and pepper, more sparing than Caliban, who's just like bright silver. His mother, however, very much the same hair, this bright shimmering silver mane that curls around. It's all been it's very wavy, thick hair, or almost it gives you like the impression of like a luscious lion's mane that sort of drapes over one of her shoulders. And then there is a slightly younger Caliban who genuinely just has the exact same expression Caliban always has. It's just younger. It's like someone run Caliban through an algorithm that de-ages people and kept the exact same facial expressions. You know, it just has been tapered back in time.
Just as a reminder, yeah, I've always been like this.
You see Caliban's father, he at present is in conversation with a woman that you immediately recognize Caliban as, Liane Boucher, the representative that handles your personal issues with the company that you've become. Liane.
Should be in the character thing right here. Is she?
I don't actually know whether you guys have met her or not, or it might be revealed to you and other people. But she has a drink in hand. She stood by the window talking to her father. She's a very much modern businesswoman-looking individual, short hair that's cut to the shoulders, very well manicured hands. Someone who is a product of Empress City. She has a bright, dazzling smile as she turns around and you walk in, Caliban. She walks up to you, almost as if no one else exists in the room, and gives you a hug, Caliban. Steps back and says, "I'm very delighted to hear that you are quite well. I saw one of the request forms say that a certain medication meant for you was used, but I understand now it was due to another individual. It is just good to see you up and well, Caliban."
There has been no permanent or critical harm to me, thankfully.
Of course not. Well, I was just finishing some business off with your father. Far be it from me to interrupt dinner time. Pleasure to meet you all, everyone else. And then she sort of walks out of the room before the rest of you get a chance to really talk to her.
We did run into her in the first session, didn't we?
Oh, you may have done. If you did, I admit I forgot it.
She handed him. I think she handed him handed Caliban like a piece of candy like first session.
I thought that was the new doctor. You might be getting mixed up with Duval, Henry, or whatever his name is. Might be.
Foreign party, campus medical wing.
Richard Duval. That was it. Maybe we're both getting confused with each other. Maybe both of those things happened, but
both of them did happen because she's in the journal.
In which case, yeah.
Because I have a character who's just called
her 5
Leanne,
minutes
and
ago.
I know nothing about her other than a member of the Azalea Foundation.
Yeah.
Organized researchers for class 10Y1 carries lollipops for Caliban. That's all I wrote down.
Then
Strictly for Caliban.
uh,
If he's been a good boy.
she doesn't give you a
It's
lollipop
love.
because she doesn't want to ruin your dinner you're about to have. She will tell you as she leaves the room.
You just like Butter's understandable, but notice slightly disappointed.
My displeasure is immeasurable. My day ruined.
My appetite ruined.
Wait, Leanne Boucher is definitely new.
No,
No,
apparently not.
she's not. We just didn't have a surname.
No,
The
you're-
description's the same.
Okay.
She, as she leaves the room, your
Oh.
father turns from the window and gives you a sort of a big, warm smile. Looks across the people that have come with you and says, I count one missing, Caliban. Someone could not make it.
She preferred not to make it. It was our individual that, like I know how much is Clara's history known throughout
I mean,
the nobility?
It was in the papers. It's quite a big thing. Most of the nobility follow the politics of the stuff happening abroad. It's important to them. So yeah, it would be known to your father for sure.
Yeah, just sort of trailing off to imply that it might still be a little bit messy within the upper class, so to speak.
No, quite understandable. Part of the reason I was hoping to see her today. All the same, welcome to our home. You must be the rest of my son's class. He steps forward and offers a hand to each of you.
I shake it. Does he? What type of handshaker is he?
Firm handshake, but he's not trying to crush your hand.
Okay. Going to hand back the firm handshake as well. Trying to keep my expression basically just neutral, given I am kind of tired. I'm definitely living off that last sip of caffeine that I took in the limo.
As he shakes your hand, he looks you over Dafer and says, "You must be Dafer, yes, from the Dudicop region."
Indeed, Mr. Halleck.
I understand your village is receiving compensation for your being here. I think that speaks a marvel to the value to your home.
I'm wishing them the best. Who I thought they are receiving.
I'm
Yes, sir.
sure it pales in comparison to what you could be doing, but I'm sure the future will receive the benefits of this current loss.
I nod. Try not to speak too much in order to not trip over my tongue.
Turns to you, Adhira, and says, "Of laments, no?"
I am Adhira Far. She extends her hand. I must admit, I'm not as special as some of my classmates.
So you say, but you were recommended by an EK themselves. Very few individuals get recommendations from afar. Most of those come from within the city. I think that makes you an exception and a rather interesting one, both from where you are from and how you came to be here. Perhaps you should consider yourself special surely by what you're studying, if nothing else.
How insight? What is? What exactly does he mean by that? Does he know I do necromancy?
I think he more is referring to you being an EK in training. EKs aren't normal.
Okay, yes. Forgive my paranoia. I shake his hand and I'm going to try and get some insight on him. Nothing too deep, but just see if I can pick up any little details being this close to him.
Give me an insight check. Ooh, he's impossible to read. This is... The one thing you can tell is... This is a little bit of a performance act, in a sense. But at the same time, it's not fake. This is who he is. He's kind of putting on a show. And he's very knowledgeable, he's well-spoken, and he is showing a genuine interest in you. But it is performative at the same time.
And I am going to meet it in turn and turn up the smile, and as I'm shaking his hand, I certainly hope you are correct, my lord.
Very good. He will talk to Uther. He does mention Uther's familial ties to a certain protective group. And he will state that I hope you extend the same protection to my son while you are away. And Caliban. I don't suppose I need to introduce myself, do I, son? Although it does feel too long, you've been away at your academy for much, much too long. Your mother is beginning to wonder when you were going to visit. She's much... she's very sad that she couldn't be here today. You know your mother, always organizing something or another.
Yes.
But where are my manners? My name, Fjodir. It's a pleasure to meet the rest of you. And, of course, I already had you at a slight disadvantage, having known your names already. Sit wherever you want. It's not like I've got your names written in gold on the table. Not yet, anyway.
Sam, I would like to just stare at Fjodir to get a grasp on whether that actually was a joke or not.
As you sit down, you notice Caliban's name is engraved in the spot where he sits in gold.
One second, I need a translation for that word. Guys. You see, Dafer just looks somewhat dumbfounded at that. Then gives, Caliban just a look.
I look at him back with an owlish stare.
David just looks forward. Just,
Don't worry, you'll be able
yourself.
to find them.
I give up. You're impossible.
That's the response I wanted to see.
I'll have you know he always was. It's very difficult to get gifts for this boy.
Is it? I would have assumed some kind of high-level shampoo or something for it. I just gesture vaguely at Caliban's hair.
Oh, that's more of his mother's side of things. She is very proud of his hair, shall we say, but no, I think that's quite natural, is it not, Caliban?
I mean, as far as I know, yes.
So,
Certainly your best attribute.
I agree.
You watch his father laugh at that and say, "It's a high bar, to be fair." It is good to see people joking with you, Caliban. I was worried they might be a little too concerned about ceremony.
Fortunately, I am surrounded by people who shirk such civil responsibilities.
Your mother always used to say, "Insolence is the spice of life." So
I would
does
argue-
Caliban
I would argue-
Jr. have a name?
Insolence is a spice. I'm just gonna follow that up with. I figured that was paprika.
a delicious spice might feature today, but no, not of life, just of dinner. But I have some questions I'll have to ask, and if I don't provide a good answer to your mother later, I'll be much chastised. So, first of all, how are you all finding the academy? I understand your curriculum's been a little unusual.
You can say that. Successful would also be another way to put it.
Thriving in chaos, are we?
Thriving. I'm not sure how else to describe what we're doing, to be honest. It's, you improvise as you go, which is, I guess, somewhat familiar.
Very good. And you're all happy with
opportunity.
You're all happy with the grounds and facilities?
Yeah.
That was a strained.
Expansive.
That was a strained yes, my dear.
It's. I never imagined a school could be so large, and it's not even the biggest school in Empress.
Well,
He might be worried about what's coming in the future. We've been informed that apparently the academy is to expand significantly, and I was surprised to hear that it does not come with an equivalent increase in funds. That seems somewhat of an irrational decision.
it would seem your academy has its enemies, but also its friends. The Fjordis family was extending their well-wishing regards regarding New Caliban and the actions towards recovering their daughter. Suffice to say, I'm very proud. Of all of you, I suppose, although it feels a little odd to say I'm proud of people I hadn't met yet, so I guess I'm proud now. And,
It required a bit more of a significant costly resource, but it is no particular deal to me.
no, I understand. It's a part of the events that have occurred. I doubt as students you had much control over the path you're walking yet, but at the same time, the steps you took are to be applauded nonetheless. There is one slight issue, and I hate to be a stickler for business, but we should at least do business before food arrives. I always hate to do business after we eat. Obviously, the Fjordis family and ours is rather close, Caliban. Since they have announced their funding of your academy, I have received no shortage of inquiries from all manner of sources regarding our relationship with the academy. I've had to come up with a more standardized response in order to make things a little bit more even amongst everyone. I was wondering if I could share with you your opinion you should have, should they ask you.
My opinion.
Yes, one I'm afraid I'll have to give you for the time being.
All right.
If asked about our family's relationship to the academy, you can state that we are thankful for all steps being taken in your education, and that we will continue to support the academy towards that end, but we have no intention of providing additional funding at this hour, shall we say.
I'd like to insight check my own dad.
Yeah, go for it. What are you trying to work out?
Ooh, that's
Like-
intense.
What am I?
Go on, nat 20.
I know he's trying to play polite with the political game, but what's the angle here?
Yeah, give me an insight check.
Oh.
The best you can work out is your dad doesn't want to publicly be seen to be too tied to the academy beyond the fact that they are providing your education. where the Fjordis family has said, we fully support the headmistress, your dad is divorcing himself from that a little bit. The purpose behind that could be the obvious of he doesn't want to go down with that ship or whatever, or it could be something else. Unfortunately, that you can't read. All you can read is the intent to keep the family name a little bit away from the academy.
I see.
If you want to ask him about him, you certainly can.
I feel like there's a more formal, like, air here of I'm expected to understand this.
Yeah, he's
But-
sort of giving you your press release statement. If the press come to you, that's what you're supposed to say, basically.
But and then this is what I'm supposed to think, or this is what the Hailing family as a whole is supposed to feel.
It's not so much what you should think or feel, it's what you have to say, I think is what he's trying to give you here. It may not even line up with how he thinks or feels, but it's what he's been saying to the press.
And okay, this is the public opinion that he's supposed to share. Though I'll be a little bit more risky. And how are we not expected to feel on this particular matter?
In a more private sense, I am interested to see where this goes, but I feel I can be more useful as a, if not neutral party, then perhaps more publicly friendly with the people that have an issue with your academy. If I can position myself as such, they might speak more plainly with me. Any financial aid I give can always be routed between family friends.
Of course.
It's just politics, my boy. You'll get used to it as you, well, as the world happens to you.
Of course. Let's see. Like, aside from dinner, there's trying to think of what else to say.
I did have a question for your class in general.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything I can do to assist you? Is there a teacher that's particularly bothersome? Someone that you need in your pocket, perhaps? I can secure their debt or otherwise purchase some sort of resource that you require. Maybe there's a problem in your district that needs sorting.
Resources would be greatly appreciated. I have a military project that I am working on for the benefit of pretty much all of us. That involves the usage of Ambaric shards and their usage in combat. I have some workable and functioning prototypes, but for a more advanced version, the person that I'm working on is looking into stripping the outer shell off those Ambaric shards, which leads to a somewhat volatile product, and having, number one, greater access to Ambaric shards in order to speed up the process of automating that stripping, as well as ideally some kind of resource or the ability to pick someone's brain about coming up with a storage solution for that would be very valuable, at least to me at the moment.
I can't help you with the procurement of Ambaric shards. That's rather closely protected at the moment, rather well regulated with it all being new and all. What I can help you with is I do have some ties still to certain companies. The Azalea Foundation is already embedded within your academy, but it sounds like my certain contacts within Dogmatic Automotive might be more what you're looking for. The Major Domo should be able to get you in contact with someone that you can talk to about your machining issues.
That would be highly appreciated. These are pretty much the more immediate next two roadblocks I'm facing.
I'm sure Caliban will be able to organize the rest for you. Won't you, Caliban?
I will. It's no particular issue for me.
Very good. Anyone else?
Not that I can think of. It'd be a bit much to ask you to help the poor Haranian district.
Unfortunately, that would be showing some sort of favoritism, and there are many displaced peoples within the cities. I'd be torn to pieces very quickly. Though I do hear you lost your room. Perhaps you lost a lot of other things with it. Maybe you need an entire new wardrobe or some other comfort that you're missing.
If I may.
You know what?
Yes, Caliban.
Well, I'll let Adhira finish her refurbishment of her bedroom. First off,
I could use a new wardrobe and several crucial missing pieces of my culture to help bring a bit more life back to my room, personality.
Leave a list with the Major Domo and he'll sort the rest.
Thank you for your generosity.
as my own enrollment is in the academy is more to signify my independence, I would say, from our family. Perhaps there may be some way for me to assist with this, as you called it, Haranian district, in some manner.
Oh, well, if your class wishes to have access to the district and some special permissions to assist in any issues that the local establishment is having with it, then far be it from me to stop you, Caliban. As you said, this is about your independence from the family.
Any actions that I take are to be reflected solely on me as an individual, and not to the family as a whole.
Yes, yes.
I wouldn't want to besmirch our good name.
I think it would be far from doing that, Caliban, but I understand the message. You can act as I cannot. Yes, yes. Rub it in.
Worry not. Should my time as an Empress Knight eventually come to pass, I would be more than happy to serve in any manner you befit for our family.
Given your stubborn streak, son, I doubt to see that day dawn. But hey, we'll see, shall we?
What? My stubborn streak, just my refusal to go down.
Your refusal to simply live a quiet life with the family and head out and fight monsters in the wilderness and all that. Yes, all of those things.
What can I say? It's fun.
So, back during our first training fight, when essentially everyone tried to get your head on a pike and you just kept saying, "No, I won't die," that was you being stubborn.
That was me being... That was me simply being Caliban.
I guess that tracks.
The only thing
No,
that
I was
can-
the one striking.
The only thing that can particularly break Caliban out of a stubborn streak is a second slice of cake.
Oh, that sounds very easy to procure. Wait, what kind of cake?
Well,
I was-
the sweeter the better, I believe. Not that I'd resort to such bribery.
Sam, trying to they first tried to summon all the occasions that he has seen Caliban over the past month, where he has eaten cake or the like. How sweet are we talking about?
You've seen Caliban eat 3 lollipops, 4 big sugary gummy worms, and a myriad of other sweet treats across the period of time that you have known Caliban, which is like 3 weeks.
Basically, I'm currently wondering how he hasn't developed diabetes after the first day of that kind of diet, and he has proven this for 3 weeks that he won't.
Look at how he is built. A ridiculous metabolism, we can say. We can surmise.
I haven't seen your internal metabolism. To me, you're a
I
normal
have.
dude.
I have.
And here, what do you mean by that?
Oh, that wasn't out loud, but I, as the character, have seen. I've seen your nerves rewriting themselves.
I have seen the fuck shittery that is your nervous system.
I like the mental image of this like entire nervous system like growing like a sunflower towards the nearest sugary snack, just like all just like. Food
And
is
here
brought.
will sort of.
Food is brought into the room. Waiters kind of stand behind you, put the dish in front of you, remove the kosh all at once in unison. Your drinks are never more than half empty. They are always topped back up. Sometimes you don't even notice that happening. While you're in the middle of talking, like a bottle sort of appears from around a corner and like tops your drink up and then retreats back into the dark recesses of the unlit corners of the room.
Steps back into the shadows.
Yeah, very much like that. The food itself isn't, I don't know, it's not particularly like bougie as you might expect. It's very high quality food, nicely cooked and spiced, but it isn't like foie gras or like anything that is seemingly super exotic. A lot of it is from Empress City, but it's just, yeah, probably cooked by a chef who's like 2 rooms away. Just nice food.
Still the most, the fanciest stuff I've ever eaten, isn't it?
I think technically the stuff in that Sky View restaurant was probably slightly fancier than this.
It's just been hitting
The food is high
notes.
quality, but very utilitarian.
Yeah, it's like nicely spiced, good ingredient like stew, still stew, right? Like high quality meat, high quality vegetables, spices from distant places, but it's local meat, it's local vegetables, and yeah.
Very
Hearty.
practical and patriotic.
I think that's about right, yeah. Yeah. Dave.
Would Dafer be able to take away anything of the cooking in this, or like taking anything away from that cooking, like eating it and be like, yeah, they must have done blah blah blah. Maybe I can experiment a bit with that.
What you take away over the next 4 very small, very nice courses is each of the dishes serves to make one of the ingredients the star, and everything else is done in service to that. So for the stew, it's like a mutton meat, and everything else in that dish is designed to make mutton sing, essentially. So it teaches you about not overcrowding a dish, if anything, maybe might be the best way of putting it. Like, more ingredients isn't always better.
Okay.
After you've all eaten and dishes are being taken away, your father asks to bring everyone into essentially like an after dinner room. It's kind of like a smoking room with like armchairs, a lit fire. There are little bookshelves and stuff in here. Following him in, your father has had one of the blades of the Archangel's mess taken into this room to show the rest of your class. It's a rapier, like long, thin blade with a handle that's reminiscent of the one you designed for your own weapon, Caliban, sort of like based on it to some degree. So it looks somewhat like your weapon, but it's old. It looks like it's made of like an almost liquid metal that is holding its form. And the handle itself is made of what looks to be like animal hide or something like that, but impossibly old and impossibly preserved. It sits on the desk in the room on top of like a big velvet long cushion that's been sat there. And yeah, your father just gestures towards it and says, "This is the treasure of our family, the weapon we are to maintain and protect. Go ahead, take a look if you wish."
Hira,
Like the blade itself is liquid metal. Well, not particularly liquid metal, but like it has the texture.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost see it ripple. It holds a general form, but it is moving. It is flowing. It's just holding the shape of rapier.
I imagine, so you know like how Damascus steel has all those very visible like lines and
Yes.
flowing, yeah, that just moving.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
texture moving,
And it's
yeah.
got like a similar iridescence to it as well, like these sheens of color that run through it.
How, stepping closer, how large is it compared to like a human? Does it seem like it was wielded by someone a bit taller, like 9 foot, 8 foot?
No, the weapon itself seems well-sized for a person, you would say, Tira. Like, look, it's a little big for you, but it's about right for what a person should wield it, Tira.
How much of a do not touch vibe am I getting?
As you approach it, he gestures, says, "Feel free."
She delicately picks it up and runs a finger along the side of the blade.
As you pick it up, the dimensions of the blade shift to better match your stature, Adhira. The handle contours to your finger's grip, and the guard shrinks in order to encase and protect your hand perfectly. As you run your finger along the blade, you can feel it respond to you reflexively, and it sort of flattens out where your finger touches to make sure not to cut you as you drag your finger along one of the sharp edges, it protecting you from its own blade.
So beautiful, so alive.
It almost preens under the words that you state out loud as it shimmers different colors, taking different angles to reflect the light, almost golden light bathing over your face as you praise it and hold on to it. What does it make you think of, Atira, as you're holding it?
Probably a precious metal from beneath the ground is the first thing that her mind connects to. A staple from the Laments.
The handle that protects your hand converts itself into gemstones from beneath the Lament's desert. All of the different gemstones that match the eye colors of the denizens of your homeland. And the blade itself shifts into silver and gold, like the eyes of all the others of precious metals. Caliban's father watches and remarks, "I have not quite seen that form before. Interesting."
Don't know what I just did. I just felt the thought of home and it changed.
It is said that the Archangel of Zemes, when he fought against the hordes of the Scourge, he would hold in his heart the people he was protecting, that the weapon would embody those people and remind him as he fought as to what he was fighting for. It seems in the hands of a mortal it takes on more the shape of one's home and heart, to remind you still what you're fighting for.
beautiful sentiment. Wise, perhaps. She almost reluctantly pulls it away from herself and sets it delicately back down upon the desk before turning to Dather. Well, why don't you pick it up and see what happens?
I'd say one thing, Atira, is you put it down towards the table, you don't let go of it, it lets go of your hand.
I'm a dumb boy. Physically, how does that work?
It had encased your hand, perfectly form-fitting.
Oh, okay.
And as you move your hand down, you don't think to release it. It releases itself from you, and as you kind of look down, you realize you put it down. You didn't think to put it away. It seems to have put itself back down onto the table.
All right.
Anybody else wants to give it a try?
One thing, Sam, as she held it earlier, did I essentially see... you said there was something on the blade. What was written there? Was there some kind of alphabet? Was it runes? Was it something else entirely? Was it just
no, it's not
visual...
not so much like words or runes, so much as like visual wavelength patterns, like Damascus steel type inlays, I guess might be a word I'd use. A patina, I think, is technically the term.
Then, patina. Eventually, I'll know what that means. I'll just go with decorative, beautiful stuff, but not necessarily with like big, wordy meanings or something. Okay. Okay. With a mostly just studying look at the blade, I guess Dafer would also take it in hand.
Yeah.
Trying to basically just analyze it as best he can from all he can perceive, touching it, looking at it.
So it retains the form of the last person who touched it. As you pick it up, it's still in this gem and precious metal configuration. Gripping it, the blade itself in your hand retreats, so it shrinks down, and then the actual silver and gold starts to wind itself down your wrist until the handguard shifts into a more gauntlet-like shape with a spring load around your arm down to your wrist, with the weapon recognizing that you're not as comfortable holding a sword as you are swinging your arm at a target. The handle that you're holding, this handguard, shifts into somewhere between like a sort of rusted metal reddish color and something that's still shiny and bright. It's like the fanciest looking rusted iron you've ever witnessed. And on top of that, certain sections of it begin to develop gears and other mechanisms as it shifts its form into something that resembles a pneumatic fist.
I would like to burn in the like how the gears interlock, etc., to essentially be able to make a blueprint of that later, if my tired ass can do that still.
Dafer, as you look at it and you're like, let me try and work out how this works, you realize it works because you already know how this works. And as you're looking at it, it's taken the design right from your mind. As you're like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I do it. You're like, oh, that's exactly how I do it.
So is it forming idealized forms of what we have in mind?
It's certainly responding to each of the wielders and shaping itself to best fit, yeah.
Oh my god. Someone think of a gun.
In that case, as an experiment, given that it apparently appears to be shifting based on how I would do X, I mean, I assume this is this would be based on one of my more outlandish designs that
Yes.
I likely have thrown away at some point because too complicated to manufacture. I don't have the materials, or too finicky. I don't know how to manufacture the finicky bits, blah blah blah. And as a thought experiment, given that I would have just thrown away that design rather early-ish, I, as quickly as I can, try to iterate on it and see if that, like mentally, and see if that changes anything.
You quickly think through different iterations, but there's something in your in the way that you do this that holds you back a little bit, where you're iterating in an experimental way which makes you unsure if it would work, and the weapon seems to, you feel almost like a feedback about the unsureness of your design from what you're holding. It will only hold a shape that you are certain works, essentially.
That's something I believe in, essentially. So
Yes.
it basically requires me to have done the math ahead of time.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. That is peculiar. That is a lot more functional than I would have assumed.
There was no room for mere fancy upon the battlefields of old. This weapon is, in some sense, responsible for the new trend in your EK weaponry, in the shifting forms. It was not uncommon for weapons to be more responsive back before the goddess left. We're merely trying to recreate something lost.
In a sense, that is admirable. In another sense, also very expensive.
Sometimes it's not about how much it costs, it's about how much it means.
I believe that clashes somewhat with the harsh reality that at some point you need to get the most bang out of your buck and do that the best way you can in order to make it.
Both have their place. We all have our roles to fill.
Okay. Now, so I just put this back down, and like I essentially, like very awkwardly looking, I just put. I assume it encased both my fists.
No, just your right hand, the one that you pick the weapon up with. Your
Okay.
left hand would be free.
Okay, but still, like that's a gauntlet. That's not like I just open my hand. So I still
You-
somewhat awkwardly just hold my hand above the velvet, and I'm.
As you open your hand up, the metal that encased your hand splits open and it drops itself onto the table, almost melting from the flesh and bone that it was sort of wrapping around, just drops down onto the table as the gauntlet waiting for someone to put their hand into it so it can envelop it. Caliban?
How many times has Caliban held the sword?
You've
Oh,
never directly picked it up. You've been with your father when he has maintained or otherwise worked with it, but this is the first time he's ever asked if you want to hold it.
Look back at him, look back at the sword, and then cautiously, pick it up.
As you place your hand into the gauntlet, it reforms into that rapier shape, as it always has with every member of your family lineage. However, Caliban, you feel an odd reaction between you and the blade. There is a sense that for everyone else it unconsciously sort of adapted to them. This blade asks what your bidding is without sharing a word or a thought. It's a feeling that passes between you as it requests an instruction from you.
What is your bidding?
What is your bidding, says the weapon in your mind.
Let's see. And I think of what kind of instruction am I supposed to give? What detail? What order or bidding does this entail?
It is a weapon. It seeks an instruction for conflict or an instruction for protection. It also can change its form. It seeks an instruction as to what its very being might be.
I'm gonna think very simply. Rather than the rapier, I'm gonna more think of like a longer. The blade is less thin, more weighted, more like an S-stock design.
Yeah, closer to the size of the rapier you actually use, the S-stock that you have, yeah? Or no, the one that you're training with, sorry, not the one that you have particularly. It shifts, and it doesn't just shift into any old S-stock, it shifts very explicitly into a very fine, very beautiful version of the S-stock you train with.
Interesting.
Is there anyone you think of in this moment? As you're like, anyone else in the world that might cross your mind as you're looking at the blade?
I'm thinking. I think of just the Fjordis family. God damn it, Hira. Thinking of like the Fjordis family and what they like might possess in their own.
You watch as the blade shifts into the rifle that you had when you were with the Fjordis family.
Huh. Claravan shivers and shambles the session.
God damn.
I look at Adhira and I think of her weapon.
It does indeed shift into a perfect replica of Kamsin.
I look at Dafer and his gauntlets.
You get one gauntlet, you don't get both.
Oh.
Oh. And one more try. Uther.
As all of a sudden you tip forward holding the biggest and heaviest fucking blade you've ever grabbed. Your father smiles, pleased, very quietly pleased.
Mm-hmm. Just for, let's see, just to appease them, how is holding Clara's weapon?
It does shift into the chakram.
Shotgun.
Chakram.
Oh, chakram.
Yeah, the throwing disc.
Could
I was like, when did Clara have a shotgun?
It's me. I keep injecting a gun into that girl.
can I speak like as a player? Is this thing capable of turning into like a modern firearm?
It just turned into a like the firing rifles they had from the Fjordis family home, which isn't technically a modern firearm, but
they're lever.
Okay,
I believe they're lever action.
they were lever. Yeah, World War II-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think back to its original rapier form again, and I hand it back to my father.
Your father takes it from you, and you watch as the blade shifts into a shield that he then hangs on a hook on the wall nearby.
just putting it on the wall.
Yeah. And he says, I thought you might have the same gift of control. Not every member of our family does, Caliban, but I had assumed.
Huh. Really?
Your uncle, not so gifted, I'm afraid.
Would the uncle be a younger or a bigger brother?
I think we mentioned the uncle before.
I can't remember.
He was the
I
one
don't
that.
know.
What was it? What was his name?
I only know a Fjodor von Halik and a Caliban von Halik. That's my limits.
There's another name. I can't.
Bahanir? I think it may have come up.
Bahanir, yes.
Somebody type that, please, because what?
Bahanir.
Yeah, you got it.
I would have so definitely written that with an E.
Like Boromir, but Bahanir. You do see a little bit of a mixture of pain and disrespect when mentioning his brother, but otherwise, yeah, it was mostly to inform you that not everyone can do that.
Wrath remains in the care of parents. Ruin. Yeah, this blade is, if I recall, Wrath.
It is Wrath. Ruin was in the care of your uncle. They are twin blades. As much as liquid metal can be twinned, I suppose.
And
I mean, if it just comes from the same source of liquid metal, then yeah.
It is indeed.
And as far as I can tell, he sold Ruin to what he thought was an executive of the Licht Company so they could research it.
Yeah, your uncle
But
did.
as far as Caliban knows, what he thought was an executive, if Caliban had researched at any point, if they had it in their possession, I would think maybe they didn't.
Yeah, no, so it sort of came out that the person he sold it to impersonated an executive from one of the important companies, actually scammed him out of the one half of the blades of the Archangel of Zemes. He's very much a discarded member of the family, as he lost half of the charge that gives them their noble title.
I think I'm gonna. I'm gonna make a mental note in the back of my head to find its missing counterpart and bring it back.
Right.
If not just for the family, then just for the sake of, it wouldn't be complete without its missing half.
You make a quiet vow to yourself to find Ruin somewhere, wherever it may have ended up.
I'll ask Caliban's dad, do we have, any possible idea where Ruin may be?
I wish, my boy, I do. I have been looking for some time, but every lead I follow runs dry. Mayhaps your ventures into the world might lead you to sources unknown to me. I can only hope.
If you've scoured the city, every corner, then I guess the only possible solution would be outside of it.
I wish I had true access to every corner of the city, but I have scoured as thoroughly as I can. There may yet be some recess unchecked in which the blade hides, but the amount of money your uncle sold it for was no small amount. I I can see how he might be fooled into thinking it must be a company that bought it from him. No, I think that some other noble family, or perhaps secretly the Licht company does hold the blade, but someone out there paid a fortune for it. And boy, what a bargain they got.
Could Wrath be used as a conduit to find its missing counterpart? Have we considered that?
I've never considered such things, but it does lead me to worry. We lost one half of this pair. My heart couldn't live without this one. I would not risk
I
the
don't
blade.
plan. I won't remove it from the household, but maybe I want to hold the blade, give it an order to like give like a general direction of where its counterpart may be, sort of like a compass.
Holding the weapon, shifting it into the rapier form once again. As you think about it, you feel at the edges of your intent a capability buried within the weapon, but you also feel your own lack of control. This is the first time you've ever really used the weapon, and you're sure it's capable of a great many things, but beyond shifting its form as a tool on the battlefield, you don't feel you're ready to control this weapon in any capacity than that yet, Caliban. You would need to spend more time with it.
I'll return it to its rightful place. I feel like if I could like come back here and maybe like practice with it and exert more control over it, might be able to find a lead.
Well, that would give you more reasons to visit home, and I can't complain about that.
Question: How's Fyodor is a noble, but he is not, I guess, a fighter?
No, he's not a warrior, no.
Has he at least, like, practiced with the blade?
Yeah, he would have been tutored same as you growing up. It's just that as he got older in life, he found no real use for continuing with that, basically. He got more into the life of a noble in politics more than anything, I think, is how you would see your father, Caliban. Dafer, looking around the room, there are little different runic seals, and there are buttons to be hit that seem to maybe link to alarms. Otherwise, in the building, you do not doubt with the amount of staff you've seen that there must be combat staff on the premises, security as it were as well. No, this building is secure and protected, and the old structure of the building makes you think that maybe there might be some security features from the ages of the goddess itself still baked into the structure as well.
Okay.
So yeah, you see some modern and some ancient things that make you think, yes, this place is very protected. Your father just looks at you, Caliban, and says, if you feel that spending time with the blade might help you find its pair, then I won't stop you. What I ask is you simply not take it off the premises. Beyond that, I called you here for some simple reasons. To meet with your classmates, to inform you of our official stance on the academy as a family, and to tell you that I am proud of what I have heard come from the various sources I have so far, Caliban. I was uncertain when you first put forth your idea, but as usual, it has come to be proven a well thought out venture. I wish you luck on your trip abroad, and I bid you carry our name and its reputation well wherever you step.
He sort of just like gives like a slow nod and just says, "Of course."
Your mother left a gift in your room. Best you pick it up before you go.
Let's see. I no, never mind. I was just gonna make like just maybe next time Mother can come visit. I'll come see.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't. Well, yes, she probably will come visit you in the academy. I'll let her know when you're back from your trip abroad. She'll be worrying rather a lot.
Or like she may be here next time I come visit. Like either or.
I think she'd like to make an entrance. You know her.
Of course. Well, if with that said, like if we don't leave now, then like maybe I'll see what gift there is.
One last thing before you go. The one member of your class that could not visit, the Luxmatics girl. Is there something I can do to make her transition into Parisian society a little easier?
Parisian society.
I understand that she is a ward of the city. Can't be comfortable for the girl.
Right.
Adhira clears her throat.
Yes, Atira.
There is one thing that they mentioned to her that she may take issue with. She's not allowed to send any letters or correspondence back to her home without it being double and triple checked. Maybe there could be a way that she sends those letters through you?
I'll see what I can do. Likely this comes from the judges. Caliban?
I suppose we could procure carbon copies of the letters and just send those in their place.
I think the issue that your classmate may have is someone else handling her letters at all. No, I'll bring my concerns about her acclamation to some of the judges I'm friends with. Surely they are not concerned about the actions of one girl we have taken in good faith, so much so that she is not allowed her privacy.
All right.
Go on. Go grab your stuff. Your curfew will be coming up before long, and I'd rather not be the reason you're all in trouble for being late. I hear your
Of course.
headmistress can be quite scary.
You're not familiar with her?
Aether nods absent-mindedly and then has, in his tired mind state, as he has not had another sip of caffeine in quite a while, has a late realization that Fjordir must have one heck of a time talking to the Fjordis family, and that this definitely does not get confusing at all. Smiles a little bit to himself at that very nonsensical thought.
Is everyone going up to Caliban's room, or is it just Caliban?
No, I don't think Dafer has that kind of tact. Where would he have learned that?
Dafer's following you, Caliban. want to describe what your room in your family home looks like? What did Caliban grow up with as a room?
I guess I could say that it is maybe a little just as like sharing a similar aesthetic as the rest of the home. But good question.
It's like a dungeon chic. I mean, do you have like a ridiculously large bed, or is it like a single bed in a huge room? Like, how is
Like, I'm just gonna imagine like a big king-sized bed. Like big cushions and everything, but at the same time there's a strange like contrasting starkness to its comfort.
Yeah, the walls are the same old stone, with the windows being lifted from a structure a million, not a million miles away, but a very long distance away. They fit a little awkwardly into the shape of everything else. It's beautiful, but it's as much a display, like it's like living in a museum, but a dungeon at the same time, but a luxurious manor as well, put inside of it, with a big, beautiful bed, and then some elements of like your Spartan-like nature as well, Caliban, where there are certain things in this space that like have been removed in a sense, where you could just have the extra floor space, so it feels like oddly empty in different areas as well.
I guess there's also just like a desk and a study, like maybe some textbooks that like at least covering like the breadth of knowledge needed for somebody of his social
Position.
standing.
Yeah. There is it's almost cartoonish. It's this big box with the square shape. It's not wrapped, but there's a big bow ribbon on it. Huge silver gift label with flowing cartography writing on it, written in what looks to be like this golden flowing ink, essentially, that shines in the light of the torch as you light it heading into your room. A gift sits upon your bed. Picture perfectly placed.
I open it.
Opening it up inside is a bundle of fabric that is a silvery white scarf that perfectly matches the tone and softness of your hair. It is like a long, warm scarf that could be wrapped around yourself, that kind of goes from the chin all the way down around your chest. Like a huge bundle of material with little tassels that seem to sparkle under the light of the torches as you move it back and forth. It's not quite glittery, but it is like a shiny silver white scarf. Nestled in amongst the fabric is a note from your mother as well.
I'll open it, I'll read it.
Opening it up, it says, Caliban, I was out and about, and this scarf did quite remind me of you. I hear you're heading outside of the city. Outside of the city, the weather can be quite cold. And you're heading north as well, so bundle up warm, and I hope to see you soon. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I miss you dearly.
All right, like I'll like throw the scarf like around him, like around his neck.
Looks like Caliban's wearing a scarf of sparkling silver white hair of his own head.
Does he look overly warm now? Or
in
just
this,
the right amount?
well, I think it's a little cold in this house, if I'm honest. Even with like all the lit flames, it's a little drafty. So he's probably feeling more comfortable now than before. Anywhere else, probably a bit too warm.
I'm imagining it now, like, there's his hair, and now there's a scarf around him that just looks like more hair.
Yes.
Oh no, he's grown. He's evolved.
It's anyone looking at you, it's like hair, face, shiny hair.
Incredible.
Anything else you guys want to do before you head back and grab the car back to the academy?
Question. Caliban's room is somewhat Spartan in style. That would come off as somewhat, like, besides the fact that the few things he has are, like, split over a ridiculous
Space.
size of room.
Yeah.
That could fit a small house inside of it. Not small, decently sized house inside of it. Like, just the Spartan nature of it all does kind of seem reminiscent for me, as, like, in a village of my size, I would assume you don't have that much either.
Yeah. I think the difference for you, Dafer, is as you're looking at it, the one small desk in there is beautifully made, rich wood, all that sort of stuff, yeah. Like, everything in here is very high quality, there just isn't too much of it in here. Not like some of the other rooms, which are like stuffed full of fanciful things, old artifacts, paintings, all these sorts of things. Caliban's room lacks a lot of that in difference. Yeah.
So as the rest of the house is Von Helig, this is Caliban.
Yeah.
That is more similar to what I am familiar with than not, which is surprising. If will just be taking that in, so he just looks around. Actually, Caliban, do you have sometimes have echoes in here with just the amount of space?
Echoes.
Yeah, this. I mean, I guess, given all this splendor here, I am surprised you decide to live the way you do. I don't know. I'd have expected more. War. That's not bad.
More.
You expected extravagance. Well, more than what lies beyond the outer.
It would be a lie to say you are not using and clothing yourself and surrounding yourself with extravagant things, but given what we have seen so far, I would have expected, or what I've noticed of you and your name, I would have expected bombastic extravagance. You just don't take this the wrong way. I mean this positively. But you seem more down to earth than I would have anticipated, given vague gestures at the rest of the house.
Well, given that I enrolled in the academy, I am expected to have a degree of civility to my. Well, I won't call anybody. I can't. Those of lower standing. He tries to avoid like the use of the word lesser or inferior, because genuinely that's not what he means.
You still get a bit of a squint from Adhira.
He means well, but he does not find the words. I think Dafer has put up with a whole lot of shit from you from day one, so he can forgive that one. Like the only point where we actually had beef was the withheld information. He's still not fully over that, but like he's working over that through that.
The major domo Algernon comes, takes down your request for contacts at Dogmatic Automotive and the need for an enhanced closet for Adhira, and yeah, has you driven back to the academy. You guys arrive kind of on the dot 5 minutes before the curfew runs out and are able to make it back into the grounds before the gates are closed. Yeah, heading back towards the dorms. Most people are asleep by now or otherwise chilling in their rooms. I don't know if there's anything people want to do that evening before they go to bed.
Has Clara prepared any pranks or something?
Absolutely not.
Right.
Aw, missed opportunity.
They will knock and knock on her door.
Clara gets up from her desk where she's been reading. Oh, I didn't realize you guys were back.
Yes, we got in with 5 minutes to spare.
Cutting it close.
Yeah. How have you been?
It's been uneventful. I've just been reading.
Mm.
How was what I assume to be some ostentatious mansion?
It was that. Very, biggest building I've ever seen. Very spacious. Bit too spacious. Lot of dark corners. Aside from that, it was nice. His father was nice.
Why are you saying it like that?
It. I would have expected someone more like Caliban. Maybe I was expecting the worst, but...
As opposite of nice, particularly.
Okay, then allow me to ask you a follow-up question, if I may. Were you perhaps offered anything by him?
I was being very generous.
Clara's gonna... Her smile kind of like stutters, and she's just gonna grab Adhira by the collar and pull her into the room and slam the door.
Hey,
Listen,
it's my nicest outfit for now.
I know, and I'm not, planning on ruining it. I would pay you for a new one if that was a big deal. It's more that I'm not entirely sure you understand what you've done.
I've done something?
More that you've agreed to something unspoken.
And what would this unspoken thing be? I now somehow owe them?
Something like that. You've accepted a favor. Nobility trade in favors like you might trade coins or currency.
I don't really know what they would want from me in return.
That's part of the problem. Is that there's actually no way to tell. Well, up until you get asked for that favor. It may seem something small at first. A trip to go visit someone. An investigation that might catch your eye. Perhaps tales of a mystical artifact that might gather your interest.
They are
You're...
artifact.
you're now in some sort of unspoken debt. Now, that's not, I suppose, that bad of a thing. It curries favour, after all, but, in future, it would be remiss of you to agree to things from people who have a certain standing without thinking first of what they might gain from offering you such things.
See. Now, do I tell you what I suggested he gives to you now or later?
She flops down onto her bed. Tell me now.
She, and here, like, walks around the room, just sort of gathering her thoughts, crouches down in front of the slime container. Mr. Caliban Older. Fyodor, right?
Yes, Fyodor.
Fyodor. Wanted to see if there was anything he could do for the Lux Maddox girl. And I mentioned that you, unfortunately, couldn't send untampered correspondence to your family. He said he might be able to do something about that.
Clara sits back up, and there's a bit more of a smirk on her face. Well, at least I've done a good enough job of concealing my actual thoughts and feelings on the matter. In truth, that part doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm not trading in state secrets. If I want to send a letter home, I don't really care who checks it. What are they going to do? Say, oh, you can't tell your father about one of your memories from when you were a child that he already knows. That might incite a revolution. I don't care. They can check it, they can stop them. I'll keep sending them. It doesn't make a difference.
Start intercepting your ordered scented candles.
In truth, then, I suppose I should be thankful, because you've basically had him investigate something I will never want from him anyway.
Shrugs.
I appreciate the thought, but you don't need to do that for me. I'm a big girl, Atira. I can handle myself.
If you say so.
I do.
You should have seen the sword, though.
Oh, they have an Empress relic, right? Like one of the Archangel swords?
Zemess's own blade. One of Zemess's own blades.
What does it look like?
It changes. When it was laying on Fyodor's desk, it was simple, flowing metal and animal leather wrapping the hilt. Very beautifully preserved, still ancient. But when I picked it up and I thought of my home, it changed into jewels and precious metals. And when Defa touched it, it turned into more something resembling his homeland. It became a fist. The weapon was alive.
I suppose that's not all too surprising, considering its origin.
I kind of wish you were there.
While I have no doubt it would have been an interesting experience, and probably my skills at such things may have come in helpful, my personal feelings about the matter mean it's probably best if I don't go to those sorts of things.
I see.
Do you? I don't mean that in a passive-aggressive way, but Adhiri, you are immeasurably talented at a great number of things. But politics, I fear, is not one of them.
Thankfully, it stays that way. stay away from politics.
Exactly. So, while you somewhat... Have you ever heard the saying, ignorance is bliss?
Yes.
This is precisely what I mean. When you went, you were able to admire the scenery, think about Fyodor as just a nice father getting to know his son's friends. Because you've not grown up with the machinations and the scheming, and people always wanting something from you because you happen to be there, or your name carries weight, or because of where you're from, or who you're related to, or what you can do. It gets exhausting. So, it's good that you can go and enjoy those things without constantly being preoccupied by what they might mean. But I can't do that.
It's a shame you're so tortured, Vyn. I've loved just the one other member of the team to be there.
Maybe next time. Although I will admit, my decision to not go was maybe less politically motivated and more because
Very personal, I know.
I had supposed I was afraid his family would be like him.
His mother sort of looks like him, but... Oh, he has a younger brother.
Wait, do I?
Doesn't. But
Oh, no, okay.
I
Sorry,
imagine Terminus
completely-
would absolutely tell you to say that though, so I don't.
He's always been that way. The grand portrait they have, it's just the same face on a smaller body.
That is actually a shame. Perhaps seeing him as a youthful child might have humanized him somewhat.
I sort of meant to try and figure out something about him when I was there, but it completely slipped my mind between the very fancy
How
meal.
the sword reacted to him holding it?
No, his messed up body.
No offense, but I think he looks great. His personality is the problem.
Oh no, I didn't tell you, did I? So you remember that time
About
we
your
found those-
thoughts about Caliban's body? No, I don't believe it's ever come up.
I'm gonna rot every flower you own. Remember that time I did drugs? But it turned out to be the remains of somebody who had been taken over by a depraved.
Yes, I remember you sniffling the bone dust.
It allowed me to see into everyone. Like the nervous system, blood vessels, x-ray. His changes constantly. Everyone else, the nervous systems are like set, that don't move. His were constantly moving and adapting and changing. I don't think bodies should do that.
Perhaps not. But there's so much you can't know. I mean, let's face it, the Azalea Foundation had a hidden revival drug to cleanse all ailments and wounds and sew his body back together. I read a storybook when I was younger about a medieval knight's family who pried their child with magic potions and elixirs when they were growing up to create some sort of scion. I think that would be highly ridiculous these days, but noble families have been known to do stranger things.
Maybe it's just the noble blood.
And I'm forever thankful that noble means something very different to me than it seems to everyone else.
Anyways, I just came in to stop by and check up on you.
I'm fine. I've been here with them. She looks across at the tank. The boys.
The two slimes are stood up very tall, saying hello to Atira.
I say hello to Pudding.
Glunks
We're not
against the
calling one of
glass.
them.
We're calling it Pudding!
Glanks against the glass again.
Oh,
See, he likes it. Or she.
I think it might be they.
They.
They're kind of amorphous. So, shrug. I don't know. You should probably go to bed. I imagine it's been a long day.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Of course. And, I look forward to seeing your new wardrobe.
As do I. She leaves.
Is there anyone else who wants to do something that evening? Otherwise, my question is, what do you guys want to look into for the next 3 days or so? Sky is on the premises of the academy for the next 3 days, so if you wanted to talk to her, she is around as well. And Axel will leave the note in the morning for you guys to find about having released 3rd level crystals for the group. So if you want to go look at getting a 3rd level spell or a crystal that gives you a once every short rest 2nd level spell, that is available to you as well.
I think Adhere is at a loss. I think she's been looking at 2nd and 1st level spells, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh no, new possibility. So, she'll like kind of ask around, like what people took as their 1st, 3rd level spell.
You get mixed responses, obviously, depending on who you talk to. Some people say that most groups shouldn't go out for their first mission without a Revivify crystal. Some people were talking about fun spells to cast, such as Fireball or Lightning Bolt, just feel good to unleash. Fireball being particularly good against Ravagers, as they are weak to fire, and it is noted that the Gold Bell Cave is somewhat overrun with them. Yeah. Those would be the main ones that people would probably tell you about.
We still have classes these next few days, yeah?
No, you don't actually have classes for the next 3 days. The days before people go away on mission, it's basically do whatever you want for the next 3 days. Most of the academy is in Dayfur mode. People are like bury themselves in works. Some people, however, obviously have a much more chill approach to things. You notice Delphin spends the next 3 days doing sit-ups and cooking bread.
Excuse me, he bakes bread.
You're correct. Yeah, no, I can't. There's no clever way out of that. It's baking.
Adhere is going to take one of those cards, or all of them, that she stole from the guy, and she's going to head into town and try and find a giant plush store to buy a something for Verity.
You're looking for was it a big axolotl plushie that you wanted to
Yeah,
buy?
like a big pink axolotl.
Yeah, give me an investigation check with advantage, as money is no object.
Money is no object.
18. You find a axolotl plushie that's about the same size as you, like big one, big enough to sleep on.
Oh, yes. How much does it ring up?
I'd say half of the card's value is gone, we'll say.
Okay. How much was on those cards, by the way?
We'll say 1,000.
500 gold!
It's a...
You just spent 500.
I think that's still enough to floor Adhira. She was expecting, like, 200 max. It's like, 500, starts sweating, runs the card. It's like, okay, thank you, miss. And just looks down at the card in terror, like, how much have I taken?
But yeah, it's this big axolotl plushie. It's been stuffed with, like, the down feathers from some very nice bird. It's very comfy and warm and cuddly.
Oh. I am going to pick up a small...
Yes, Miski's
down.
down. Oh
God.
my god.
Oh no.
A small, like, fanny pack to put on the axolotl, and then I would like to go to a bookstore. Preferably, the Witch's Nook.
Yeah, you head into the Witch's Nook. Are you carrying the axolotl with
Yes.
you? Okay. You walk in with this big stuffed axolotl. Vera, who is behind the desk, looks at you as you walk in and just says, "My, doesn't that look comfortable? Do you know they can regrow their limbs?"
Yes. They're amazing creatures.
They certainly are. Why are you here with that?
I'm looking for a book to put in its little, carrying pouch. It's a gift for a friend, you see.
It has a carrying pouch. My
I
god, it's got
showed-
pockets.
I showed a little fanny pack I've strapped to it.
Is this chilled? Does this have a chilled pouch?
You never know when you might need it.
How much did this cost, Atira? Okay. What? Do you want a book about axolotls?
No, So I know that there's a lot of popular books, or very popular with the girls nowadays. Very for the older minds.
No, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Do you have an author or genre in particular that you're talking about? Like,
I'm going
is this
to
a young
switch
adult
over to
novel?
Lamshi and be like, do you have any really good smut books?
In Lamshi, she responds, all of the librarians here speak a ton of different languages. Everyone else here can understand too.
Ah!
And yes.
I was just disconnected right there.
Oh, did you not hear what I said?
Yeah.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
No, I was gonna leave the call. Like, her face has just become red.
Glowing. She just says, "Is this? Do you know what? I don't need to know. Over here."
Yo. I get something well written, but not like, something that Verity probably doesn't have.
And then you smuggle it into the academy inside of an axolotl plushie. Is that the plan?
So that when I give it to her, it's not obvious that, like...
Okay. You store the book inside. You're buying the book, so we'll take another 20 off of the 500 you've got left, so you're down to 480. Vera, as you're purchasing the book and as you tuck it away, she looks at you and she says, "It's funny. I mean, I knew EKs were people. It's just, I think it's nice to know there's not much of a difference between us. The things that you're training to do, it almost makes you, I don't want to be rude, but inhuman in what you're capable of. This is just a nice reminder that you're still a person. That all of them are."
I know what you mean. When I was young, you'd hear stories about them, and, well, where I I'm from, you're just sort of a far-off, otherworldly thing. Fantastical beings. And when I kept on finding the opportunity that I could go there, I could become one of these things, I was scared. And then now I'm surrounded with kids like me. Even my teacher, he's just another guy.
Do you not worry about how the people of your homeland will see you?
I would hope that I'll always be adherent to them. That deep down, no matter what changes, it'll still be me.
She switches to Lamshi, but leans in closer to you and says, "And what if Empress City decides to do to your home what it did to Clara's? Will you still be in the EK? Will they still look at you the same then?"
I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
I hope you never have to
But
find out. But I think it's worth
She
thinking
nods.
about. And then she leans back and smiles at you and says, "I hope whoever you're buying this for enjoys your gift."
She puts a smile back on her face. I just hope so too. Thank you very much.
You head back into the academy with your big axolotl plushie. Find Verity, who she looks at it for a second, aghast, and she's like, it's so pink." And she sort of like gives it a big hug and looks at you and says, "You're sure I can have this? It's huge."
Of course. Thank you for letting me room with you while my room was a charred out mess.
It's not a problem. I mean, I was sort of getting used to you being there, but I know obviously you don't want to sleep on my floor forever. I think I'll keep this axolotl in the space where you slept. Then it's like there's always someone sleeping on my floor who's my friend that's down there. Yeah.
She chuckles at that. I hope you enjoy it.
I think I'll call it adherent. No, I can't do that.
You could if you want.
Adherent it is! She like hugs the big axolotl and calls it adherent. And she like drags it into her room like a toddler dragging a large teddy bear, you know, like holding it by one limb and walking, dragging it behind herself.
Absolute success.
She's gotta like pull it through the door.
Adhere a lot.
Adhere a lot. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
A lot.
Okay, so Adhira spends her first day shopping and buying smut and axolotl plushies. Anyone got anything they want to look into or anything else themselves?
I do.
Yeah, get me, Clara.
I'm going to go to the infirmary and see what's happening with the Crescent, because she's been there a while.
Crescent is awake. So when you walk in, the nurses will lead you over. She's awake, but she's a little out of it. It's not that she can't, like, you can see that mentally she's there, but physically she's very tired, Clara. You can see that she keeps drifting in and out of sleep. It's like, some people say that when you first start using a shell, you can have some major sleepiness side effects from the way it drains their energy. It looks kind of like descriptions of stuff like that you've seen before, Clara. She seems healthy, as far as you can tell, and there are moments when she catches sight of you that she like, it's like recognition, and there's a look on her face like, I think I tried to kill you, and I think if I had, like, she like, her hand like grasps at the bed, like almost instinctually reaching for a knife that isn't there, but it's somehow absent-minded and tired at the same time, Clara.
I'm going to turn to one of the nurses Have you ever seen anything like this?
The nurse looks at her and says, well, not quite like this. I've seen some side effects of certain things before that can lead to extreme fatigue, but I mean, yesterday the girl was asleep almost like clockwork, every 30 seconds on the minute. Half the day she slept, but in perfect shifts. No, I've never seen anything quite like that.
And so I imagine you have no clue when she might be, I suppose, more lucid?
The man from the Azalea Foundation said that it should be within a week that she seems to be back to her normal self. He didn't tell me exactly what the period of recovery time was, but he seemed fairly confident when I asked him.
I see. And these sleeping periods, which part is she asleep for? The first 30 seconds or the latter?
It's the second half of the minute, usually, or it was yesterday.
I see.
She's a little more awake today, though, I would say.
That's okay. I'd like to talk to her about something. Are we allowed to be alone together?
But if you feel safe, then I think it's fine.
Clara stifles a grin. I think I'll be okay.
She nods and says, there's security on the door, but go ahead.
Clara's gonna pace out her words so that, like, she stops talking at, like, 29 seconds and then picks up again at, like, 2 seconds past the minute.
Yeah, cool. So you split your wording up across the awakened and sleepy periods. Perfect. What do you want to say?
Listen, I know that there's a lot that I don't understand, and perhaps some things I never will understand. But I want you to know that I don't hold anything against you. And I didn't want you to get that hurt. So I'm not sure if you were planning to live through that attack. And I'm not sure whether you'll be happy that you have. But when you feel better, I'd like to talk about it more. Because, well, quite frankly, in a way you remind me of me. I get the feeling that you weren't always like this. And that maybe you're stuck, kind of the same way I am. Oh, and I have your dagger, but you're not getting that back until I'm confident that you're not going to try and kill me with it again. So
yeah, go on.
I'm gonna go on my field trip, and then maybe when we come back, you'll be feeling better, and I'll come speak to you again.
You get a few soft words. They're broken up over a period of time, but you think they're probably part of a complete phrase. You hear kill or be killed is one of the phrases. When you say I have your dagger, her eyes, very awake, all of a sudden snap towards you before they sort of blur back out into a haze. And she also says, I'm useless now.
Well, we can agree to disagree on that. It's a conversation for later.
And then she falls into a much deeper sleep.
Cool. That's it.
Anyone else?
Yep. 1 second.
Yeah, go for it, Defer.
Okay. Having essentially like come back from dinner and just went into my room and crashed after I actually don't know if it was 2 or 3 days straight. I assume I'd actually be skipping breakfast the next day, like just straight sleeping through that.
Yeah, straight into noon.
Upon which I get up, fix myself some food, make sure that all the party is essentially like has some snacky things as well, and then I prepare myself for another 2 to 3 day shift, trying to desperately get this one stamp project finished just before, like at least before we go out. If I manage to get it done beforehand, cool. I'll get a day's sleep as well on top of that, and maybe do some refinements on the day before. Like, priority 1 is getting this done.
Give me an Arcana check at advantage, and depending on how well you do, you'll either finish the day before or the day before. So, like, you'll either have an extra day or not, basically.
Yeah. Check.
Oh, natural 20. Yeah, you get it fine, and you've got one more spare day that you can do whatever you want to look into for with that. So you've got 1 day left. But the stamp feature is done. You and Dylan work it out together. You test it. It seems to be able to punch through most materials, or like you set up a system that allows it to like bite into stone in order to like take a chunk out to put these stamps in. Sometimes the stamps need replacing because it is just a piece of metal that stabs into something to pull a piece out. So sometimes they might break in the field occasionally and just need swapping, which isn't too complex to do, but it's not something you could probably do in like the middle of a fight or something like that. That's the one downside you've got.
It does mean I essentially need to manufacture the rune shapes ahead of time.
Yeah.
Which I think we can just discuss between sessions.
Yeah, easy.
Like what shapes I have and how many of them I have, what they do, and so on.
Yeah, perfect.
And in that case, I think the last day would then mostly be concerned with actually, yeah, on the like he never dealt with Christown before, because like, or not never, but not in the sense of active combat. That is the kind of stuff or material that you use to elevate your weaponry to something truly special in order to make it very effective, and not something as luxurious as just having crystals like that. So I think he'd just visit Clara at some point, because she has used these crystals also a decent chunk. And just knocks on her door, essentially.
Clara, your door is knocked upon by Dafer. Oh, you're muted. You might be away. Probably stepped away.
Having... I thought I heard something.
Oh, well, hold
with
on, she's
Clara...
no longer muted.
Sorry, Clara, did you
Hello?
miss that?
What?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, what?
Dafer knocks on your door, Clara. He's come to talk to you.
Is this before I leave or after I get back?
It would be after you get back.
Oh, I'm probably not in my room then. I'm probably just like hanging around in the main room.
Okay. Essentially, I'd be after the finishing touches of my stamping project, I'd be coming back, somewhat disheveled, but with like a satisfied smile on my face. I'm currently mentally patting myself on the back, essentially continuously, before I approach you. Hey, Clara. Do you have half an hour or something like that?
I'm sure I can spare it for you. You look like you've been busy.
project finished. I have some runes I can now stamp into things that might provide some strategical advantages. I'm looking forward to trying those out a bit more in the field. Stuff's been looking good so far.
I'm glad to hear it.
However, disregarding that, I am looking a little bit more into crystals. I can't say I've used them much before. Like the spell crystals Dune to Tira appear to use fairly often. Like I only know them as material, not just as use yourself kind of thing. Would you mind giving me some pointers or I don't know, advice, I guess?
Well, how does it work when you use them as like a material?
I mean, essentially, depends on how you use them. Most of the time, I just use them as conduit, in which case you just put essentially lines. You try to put it in positions that the lines don't break as easily, and then they're mostly just for transporting shell energy to specific areas to concentrate them more, most likely to feed a rune that does something in a bombastic way, or blows up in your face, or something like that. Other than that, yeah, I can't say I've used them much differently than that. Sometimes as an energy storage, in a sense, but that's more of a temporary nature. It doesn't last that long. It just dissipates a lot rather quickly. From my experiments anyway. I haven't tried to look too deeply into it here. But yeah, like that.
Well, I suppose imagine the same thing just without the middleman. Like you're not beholden to it being in a specific place, but you're still, I suppose, diverting your own shell energy to make it work. Except instead of channeling it through the weapon, you channel it through, well, yourself. It's more of like an internal versus an external pipeline.
I think the thing that flabbergasts me the most is that with the way I used it before, it's mostly been infrastructure to do something eventually, and the thing that gets done eventually is, I mean, for the most part, I set that stuff up typically with runes because I'm just mostly familiar with that. The crystals, though, they do stuff themselves. Like they define the stuff that happens, right? You just blindly pump energy into it, and it happens.
Well, I suppose it's not blindly, or I should say, at least to me, it's never felt blindly. How do I? Okay, let's imagine that you're a painter, right? So the runes, I don't know what they would be in this scenario. Maybe your canvas or something, but the crystals themselves are kind of like a paintbrush. By themselves, they don't do anything. You have to choose what you want. You select your crystal like you're selecting a color of paint. The way that you channel it is like moving your paintbrush all over the canvas. You choose where the energy goes to, how to direct it within or without yourself, how far it travels, where the results span from. Depending on the crystal, you might even need to be specific about what of several results you might want. Like, she's gonna like hold up a finger, run into her room, and come back with her like chromatic orb crystal, like this one. It's a little bit hard to tell, and I wouldn't want to break it open to see, but something about this crystal has multiple potential avenues. I'm the person who has to direct the energy to exactly what I want out of it. And if I'm not thinking, I'm going to get something random. An orb that goes God knows where and comes out as whatever random elemental affinity. It's my job to direct those things. I'm the infrastructure.
But you're essentially coloring out predisposed lines. You can add some variety to it, but it seems that the majority of the picture has already been set. It just needs filling, which I guess the crystal does.
Yeah, think of it as like paint by numbers.
Okay.
I don't know whether they're all like that. I've heard, you don't quote me on this, Adhira might know more than me, but if you change the shape or the size of the crystal, you can change its innate properties. So maybe it is a little bit more like runecraft than I even understand, but quite frankly, I'm probably a bit of a nature purist for that. If something was designed to be manipulated, then I'm probably not the person to do it. I would just pick a different crystal.
Okay, I think that gives me somewhat of a rough idea. That leaves with the choice of what might be a good option. Are there inherent things that one does have an affinity with crystals that might make it easier for practical applications?
I would say yes. I don't know whether it's anything as esoteric as a natural affinity, although with the more I learn about the goddess and how the world has now shaped itself in her absence, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of natural inclination to people, but certainly Adhira is way more adept at using things like necromancy than I would be, and I don't know whether that's an inclination or just that those things make more sense to her inherently. It matches the way that she thinks and feels, in the same way that summoning creatures and weird orbs makes more sense to me.
So in that sense, I guess I can't know without trying it out. I can't say I handled these before, so I guess I'll just rent out a bunch, try them out, and see what sticks. Seems like a valid approach. Want to come with as I try that out?
Sure. I'll not turn down an opportunity to go hunt for some crystals. I don't really think I need to change any of mine out, but what you're suggesting is basically what I've been doing, just over a longer period of time.
I mean, ideally, what I want is safety nets, if that's possible. So I'll look. That's my mindset anyway. So I'll look into those first, I think. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. You have sort of a protector's mindset. So, if you look when we go for the section on maybe abjuration crystals, it's the school of magic that focuses on protecting other people, and yourself, I suppose.
Sounds like me. Sounds like trying it out. So if possible, I think Dafer would then just go with Clara to the crystal cabinet, like get a bit of a layout of the room in general, and look into renting out. I think at least one crystal of every school, but a couple, like if possible, as like a temporary rental. Hey, I'll bring them back in like an hour and a half.
Yeah, you can spend some time. They've got like a chamber where you can go into essentially like cast spells at dummies. You can try out the chromatic orb spell and things like that, targeting something as was described to you. Obviously, if you're looking for like third level abjuration spells, like stuff like Aura of Vitality and things like that are available as well. So if you want something healing, that's in there as well.
I think I'd just try a few out. Actually, just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna try out Witch Bolt, and like that's gonna be my offensive spell. I want to see how awful I am at just throwing magic
Yeah.
bolts around.
I mean, technically, it would just be using your highest stat, which is like int, right? So you'd be making.
Which is ironically better than my strength.
Yeah, yeah. So you might actually be better at witch bolting than throwing a punch.
Yeah. Slash R 1d20 plus. If I could substitute my strength for my int somehow. 1d20 plus proficiency is 2 plus int is 3.
So +5.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you take the crystal in hand, you sort of think of the paint by numbers analogy, which through that entire discussion was like ringing in my brain. It's like paint by numbers, so when Clara said that, I was like, yes. But yeah, you point the crystal at the dummy, and you like Emperor Palpatine it. Like, unlimited power, lightning coursing through the crystal, just rips through the surface of the dummy as you clearly imagine the lightning leap between the crystal and it, and it simply causes to be.
Hey, you're a natural.
That was a lot simpler than expected. So, you do that, but just very quickly?
I suppose it comes a little bit more naturally to... Well, no, I wouldn't even say that. I think I'm just more practiced with it at this point. When you have an idea about what you want to call into being, you'll find you don't have to think as hard about it. And in the heat of battle, when the adrenaline's flowing and you have to make those snap moment decisions, the decision paralysis kind of disappears. You just make that judgment, right or wrong.
Train until it, or get used to it until it becomes second nature.
Yeah, something like that.
So
There are also crystals that you... There's also things that you know, maybe do have the time to parse out a little more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm looking for a familiar, I'm not really on a time crunch. So I have time to think and make those decisions. But something offensive or snap moment get out of jail cards, yeah, you just have to hit the button, I guess.
I think I'll try and look more into, like, this seems easy enough, but in combat seeming isn't doing it good enough for me. I'll look into something that I can have a higher guarantee of pulling off perfectly, and then maybe in the future a bit more look into this kind of stuff.
Sure. I don't see why not.
I think I'm not sure which spells I'll take. Which I think one other crystal I can I'll take, because I know one of my attunement slots is gonna be an Ambaric Smite.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if my stamping mechanism will count as an attunement slot or not. I think we'll hash that out.
From what we've discussed, I don't think it will, because it seems to be more of like a narrative permission to use your rune feature in a bit more of a like pressed environment, and not just certain ones. So yeah, I think that's fine. Well, fine to be without an attunement slot, basically.
Okay.
Obviously, if there's something particular you think of that you wanted to do, we might change that in future. But
yeah, but then we can just narratively justify it by like the stamps requiring special treatment.
Agreed.
And so on.
Okay. So you're messing around with crystals. Caliban, you've got 3 days. Anything you want to do across those 3 days?
I guess I just. Do we have what did you say the spells we can pick up?
Yeah, you guys can get a crystal that gives you a once per long rest 3rd level spell, or a once per short rest 2nd level spell, which is like the next tier of crystal. You can get one of those. So you have access to things like Fireball or whatever you want, but you'd only be able.
The limit was something akin to an action or a bonus action.
No, technically they could be anything, but it keeps that limit. So if it takes a minute to cast, you still would take a minute with the crystal to cast it.
I was thinking maybe I could pick up Lesser Restoration.
Lesser Restoration's a good one. Anything with a cost or a specific requirement, the crystal already includes. So if it says you need 300 GP worth of diamond for Vivify, you don't need it. It's part of the crystal itself.
Lesser Restoration has no material requirement anyway.
I actually thought it did, so that's a surprise to me. But that's fine either way. It works. So.
I believe it is a Restoration and above that does. Let me check.
It might. I think Greater Restoration needs 100 GP worth of diamonds. I'm pretty sure, but that's 5th level anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna pick up a Lesser Restoration crystal for your. Okay.
So I have. So aside from rune spells, Hellish Rebuke, Shield, and Command, I would have Lesser Restoration.
Okay. Lesser Restoration as well. Cool.
All right.
Sky would come and visit you guys as well. Probably at the end of the second day, so you've got like one day after this. But she'll just knock on the dorm doors before sort of heading in. She'll look around to see who's there. Probably spot like Caliban or something and just say, is everyone else in?
I turn around, look inside. Is everybody else in?
Yeah.
All right.
At this time,
sure.
probably.
I think
talk to you all. It's nothing hugely important, just some things to go over before we head out.
All right.
She'll sit down in the living room area with you guys and just say, did anyone tell you exactly what it is we're going to do? Search and rescue, yes?
Search and rescue of an EK that is typically mapping out the entire tunnel structure, but hasn't reported back in a while, even though they should have.
That's right. A friend of mine. She's a little younger, a few years your senior. C-rank EK. I know her as Kathy, but I believe her EK title is Vesper. The caves that the Gold Bell caves sort of make up a system of are quite vast. They commonly become overrun with miasmic monsters and need to be cleared out. As such, EKs tend to arrive and leave. Vesper, however, stationed herself there more permanently. She discovered objects of interest, artifacts, small pieces of masonry that looked like they were carved. Many believe they were carried there, perhaps by the miasmic, perhaps by people that were using the caves to escape the growing wastes. Vesper believed otherwise. She believed that there may have been a settlement in the cave somewhere. So she has been mapping it out for some time. It goes pretty deep. It turns out that the Gold Bell Caves were originally part of a volcano structure. Many of the tunnels that remain are magma channels that have cooled, and then further tectonic events have sort of split it apart. When we get there, we are going to spend some time in the settlement that sits on top of the caves. I know it's been billed as a search and rescue, but by the time we had even known she was missing, it had been some time. I'm sad to say it, but I don't think we'll find her. Or at least not in a state that will be recoverable. I have hope, of course, but I am more interested in working out what happened to her than I am sure that we will be able to recover her. As such, I'd like to know what the people there know of what she was doing, if there was anyone that might have led her astray. I can't think of any good reason that she wouldn't have made the trips that she'd been making for some time. I know that miasmic monsters can make it down into the tunnel structures, but she was a capable woman. I can't imagine her being cornered or caught unawares. This is an investigation into the people that were around her as much as the cave systems. But if anyone there asks, we're of course there simply for a simple search and rescue. Does anyone have any questions about the caves or about Kathy or anything like that?
Do first missions usually have this much intrigue?
No. But your class came suddenly. This is as much a favor to me as it is your away mission. Axel asked if there was anything that I was doing, so you're coming along with me, and this won't be usual.
I hope you can forgive my asking, but the question that Hira asked has another point. This is the second of 2 trips that we're making that has a surprising amount of additional stuff into it that you wouldn't expect from a normal EK mission. Allow me to be frank, is this about to become a more usual pattern for the kind of tests we're getting? Are we being shifted into something?
I would hope not, no. This could be all conjecture on my part. There's nothing to suggest that anything untoward happened. Our jobs are dangerous ones. It's simply my feeling that my friend could not have been surprised.
I guess I'm just. It's not that I'm wary of betrayal or anything of the sort. I just wonder if we're put on a path that Axel or the headmistress needs us to be on. That might be just so slightly divergent from the normal EK path, which I would be fine with. It just would be nice to know if that's the case.
There are some groups that are heading out for investigations into murders at outposts. Individuals that were killed outside of sovereign soil. EKs do have more duties than simple monster elimination as well. Investigation will be no small part of your purpose and job. Usually it's investigation into what kind of creature is plaguing a group. If you imagine a village sends message for request, they can only include their perspective on what might be the problem. When you arrive, there are all manner of creature that lurks in the wastes. Ones that can affect the mind. Ones that can attack you in your sleep only. It is up to you as an EK to diagnose the situation. this kind of looking into and questioning people, it will be useful in a day-to-day sense as well. But I won't pretend that this is an entirely normal mission, since it's more what I intended to do than something the city is requesting.
And as a last question, you don't believe that under any normal circumstances Vesper could have been surprised, which is why you suspect this might be betrayal of some sort, or other extra.
She's been investigating the caves for over 9 months. She had been down into the systems most days, gone further than anyone else, and mapped out more of it than had been done in years since the outpost had been set up. She's nimble. She's quiet.
However, in the unknown lies always the chance you find something that is bigger than what you would have expected, that is more than you can chew.
That is... That is certain.
Our options?
I will not rule out the possibility that it could be a natural course of our work. I will not rule out the possibility that she is fine somewhere and keeping safe, and that we will find her. I'm merely telling you what I think has happened.
And I was mostly wondering what are our options if we encounter such a scenario.
We fight. We do our best to leave. We look out for each other. I'll look out for you.
So, might be worth a thought on what a potential exit strategy could look like. I'll keep that in mind.
We'll be quite some distance underground. We'll be using rebreathers to swim through underground cave systems that are flooded. An exit strategy will be slow and methodical.
Well, I guess in more of the sense of getting ourselves out of situation into not safe, but not immediately under direct attack zones.
We will establish underground camps. We'll use the outposts that have been built underground in order to serve as bases to launch further expeditions from into the cave systems. We'll always know which way is back.
How long have you been planning something like this?
Since the moment I realized her communications towards me had faltered. Perhaps a few months now?
I was just impressed how methodical the plan was, that's all.
If the situations were reversed, Vesper would put in just as much due care and diligence, I'm sure of that. I wish I could have been quicker, but situations had me far afield, and it isn't the easiest to get permission to go to Gold Bell when there isn't a clearing mission lined up. I've had to cut through a little bit of red tape. Of which my new rank has helped considerably.
Given we might need to take care of our own extraction strategies, let's say that, for dangerous encounters, one of the projects I'd been working on was essentially something to engrave runes into places to set up advantageous environment. My first trail of thought was actually just dry out one part of the cave in order to be able to collapse it using the dried out mushrooms on the ceiling. I would ask if you find that one a viable strategy.
The tunnel systems are extensive. If it could be used to close off another approach towards us, or perhaps even to open another one, then I see no issue with it. Obviously, there are structural concerns with detonating explosive mushrooms in a cavernous system, but we'll take each moment from a moment-to-moment basis in case.
I think it's also easier to calculate if you have the direct structural integrity in front of your eyes.
For some. I have some maps of the cavern system as mapped out by Vespa. I'm no artist, but I've drawn it as best I can from her descriptions. I'll leave it with your group to study. If you have questions based off of what you see, feel free to ask me, but we leave not tomorrow, but the day after. The train journey should take us perhaps 2 days, maybe less if this new train engine seems to live up to the reputation it is espousing. From there, we'll have maybe a week to explore the cave system. We'll be as thorough as possible. We'll take it from the deepest parts and then work our way up, purely based on the likelihood for something to go wrong being deeper within.
Okay.
I think tonight we should sit down together with dinner and lay out all our cards and sort of plan what we're bringing and how we want to handle this.
That's perfect. I planned on seeing what other benefits you guys might get from setting up the environment in a certain way for you, or if you have any idea, like if we could plan together a sort of exit strategy if an encounter goes wrong. I would like for us to have that in our back pocket. Plan B.
Sky stands and says, I'll leave you to discuss whatever it is you wish. If you want to bring anything to me, I'll be staying in the main campus building until we're heading out, so feel free to come find me. Thank you all for the help you will be providing me in the coming week. I know you will prove helpful, and I hope to teach you something while we're out there. Have a pleasant evening.
You too.
And she leaves.
So you want to go first with your concern, Atira, or?
Oh no, I mean like
it?
it sort of speaking out of character, kind of like just the war room, sitting down and being like, all right, these are these spells that I plan on bringing. This is what I can do. You know, pouring over the map, making points. I can bring. I have a modified ice knife. I have silence. Adhere is bringing that spell because these wyverns were described as being like bats and using echolocation to find enemies or prey.
Oh, if you can put silence on them, they're just blind.
Yeah. And then I would either be... We're not getting a chance to change crystals at base this mission, are we? Because we're like going in through cave diving.
Technically, I think one of the potential benefits of the little puzzle I put together was a change of crystals to bring with you. However, what I might do is just give you 3 or 4 A or B options to pick from between this and next session, because I myself forgot about the little puzzle thing that was going on anyway. So I'll just simplify it and give you guys some options, one of which might be a change of crystals. So
okay.
Obviously, I don't have that in front of me right now, but I will provide it.
I am completely willing to be the revivify bitch. If things go wrong, it is a necromancy. It would be something that she would see as necromancy, like, oh, my comfort zone. The other spell that she might take would be Spirit Guardians.
That would be more a question into the group as well as to Sam, because like this might be some information that Dayfra has that I do not as a player. Narratively, I want us to be capable of having the viable option of a retreat. Part of that is being able to cut off our pursuing enemies by just bombing a path down. Another one is allowing us to retreat from combat in the first place by having something that buys us time. The only thing I can think of for that kind of stuff is having an illusion. But
yeah,
I don't know.
You're talking about spells like, I think darkness is a bad choice, right? Because as we've talked about, one of the main denizens of the caves is like see in the dark. The other possible options, and then it's like fog cloud and stuff like that. I think sonic spells is probably the way to go, right? Loud noises that might disorientate or otherwise cause a pathway to be cut off by collapsing it, stuff like that. Shatter, thunder wave, even spells like knock might be useful in the sense of being able to cast it to create just a really loud noise. So there's that to consider, I guess.
So, like, I mean, this isn't. I mean, this isn't part me also asking you for narrative permission. Like, what kind of spell could I take that would allow as a, like, we're in mid-combat and I managed to give us some kind of distraction in order to get away. So viable options for that would be, I think, Thunder Wave in order to like knock enemies back.
Yeah,
Shatter.
My problem is I don't know the exact situation that you're sort of trying to do this from. I've given some examples of like anything thunder-based or noise-based would sort of assist you for sure. But beyond that, I can't really say with super clarity.
Because in some situations it might be useful, in others it might not. Okay.
Clara,
Me.
what third level spell are you thinking of taking?
I actually don't know whether I will take a third level one.
Going for it, having more second level to use more often.
Yeah, it's mostly because Clara is quite, I'm not gonna say stealth reliant, but she is very stealth scaling. Because of like the sneak attack and the advantage, and then being able to like have so many riders with it, it's quite useful to be able to have a stealth mechanism. However, I don't know whether my usual pass without trace gambling is going to be of any help.
I think it would be very valuable here.
Pass without trace does damper noise as well, yeah, so it will still be useful for sure.
So yeah, I think that's probably my my angle, is to go kind of the pass without trace, buff myself that way angle. And just take that so I can use it every short rest instead of having a long rest level 3 crystal. I did look at the level 3s, because the like summon creature ones, which I think also fit here quite well, are so short in duration. Like they're an hour, and so you either need to know what's coming up ahead of time, or like you summon them for a big ticket fight and then you just have to kind of YOLO it. I think it's probably more useful to take something I can use more often. So I think I might pass without trace per short rest. Might be the Clara angle.
Never go wrong with heat rules.
I myself am currently like, okay, like Aid and Warding Bond are right there as well as Bless. But on the other, no, actually Bless is not an option, never mind. Aid and Warding Bond are right there. But, like, Shatter would be obviously for like narrative mission, okay, we're getting away and maybe we're fighting like the big thingies, so that the blind wyvern thingies, so that might help against them, to distract them, because it's very loud and so. But that requires me to go out of overload, which would be very bad. So that's a tough sell. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Any thoughts from Caliban?
What's up?
Any thoughts from you?
No, head empty.
Head empty.
What crystal you might take, Caliban? Any spell that you want to bring with you in particular at 3rd level?
I did say I'd pick up
lesser
lesser
restoration. Yeah, true. You did.
I was about to say, like, am I picking up another one?
Does somebody want to pick up a Shatter? And I would pick Aid and Warding Bond.
Uther might be the person to talk to as well. Obviously, you've got one person missing who does have a spell to take as well. So that could be.
I think the Shatter one could be a once per short rest, which would also be, I think, pretty good,
that
particularly
could be very
in case.
useful. Yeah.
I mean, if you need me to pick up Shatter, if I could. But yes.
In that case, I'd pick up Aid and Warding Bond, and like, despite the fact that technically Aid is a 2nd level spell, and that would mean once per short rest, I don't think that'll work that way. Because I don't think I can just buff our entire party with Aid over 2 days.
No, I would allow you to cast Aid once, like, a day, yeah, for sure.
Okay, I guess we'll swap out. Lesser Restoration for Shatter.
Okay, swap lesser restoration for Shatter on Caliban, for sure.
So essentially, given that I'll temp HP feed everyone all the time.
It's not temp HP. It increases your max HP, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, but like my food stuff gives you temp HP.
Oh,
Aid would give you normal HP, so that everybody is buffed like 10 hit points or something.
Yeah, might keep someone alive.
I imagine the difference to like to like Adhira and Clara being like, oh, suddenly I have like 40% more health.
It's definitely an amount.
How much do I have right now?
Should be having something 20 something. Oh, a 1/3 more health. In that case, I might be going for Aid and Warding Bond, and ideally both in their once per short rest versions, so I can like. So wait, that means I need to buy a couple rings. Oh lord!
I have put a sort of flow diagram of what the spaces are. I'll walk you through them one by one. If you want to add names or labels to the chambers in any way, you certainly can. So, at the top here, the settlement is like a mesa, like a tower mountain with a flat top. Think like Uluru meets Table Mountain, sort of like a pillar of reddish rock. There is a settlement that is on top of that, and then there's like a deep well of water that sits in the center of the settlement that the settlement uses to survive. The top of the mountain has artillery and anti-air platforms, and then down under here we have a military base built by Empress City into the base of the mesa. There's like a wall and a gate and all sorts of defenses here, and one way in and one way out of the inside. And this is referred to as Outpost 1, this thing here.
Which thing? Where? Sorry.
Sorry. This one here. Can you guys see that, or is that to say?
Yeah.
No, you guys can see it. Cool. The chambers underneath. This is like wild mushroom growth. This is the actual Gold Bell Caverns. So this down here. This is known as Outpost 2 and is where most of the harvesting operations go. This on the left is marked as an engineering project, and this here is marked as the cultivation grounds. Yeah, of course.
Village leads to Outpost 1. Outpost 1 leads to cultivation grounds. Okay.
Technically, Outpost 1 leads to this engineering project, as it's labeled, and this here is the cultivation grounds, as it's been labeled on the map there.
Okay. The shroom thingy in the shroom marked cavern is what is Outpost 1.
Yes, it's no, sorry. Outpost 1 is this space here. Sorry, Osa.
Sorry.
This here is the wild mushroom growth, so it's like a mushroom forest of all different kinds of mushrooms. This chamber on the right is known as the Pillar Caves. This is where the wyverns mostly are. It's like just a forest of little caverns and caves that the wyverns sort of live in. This under here is basically a huge waterfall set into multiple caves, because the water from this well drips down and feeds through the rock in two different directions, to the left and the right, basically. These two bottom chambers are theoretical. They're marked by Vespa. These were the places she was trying to prove existed.
And what is the to the east of the cultivation grounds? There is a huge, similar to the waterfall caves, a large shaft going down.
Yes.
What is that one?
This is referred to as essentially this is the chamber the Ravagers keep getting into, so this is where the miasmic monsters keep getting in. These links are technically closed off. They're sort of like reinforced and protected, essentially. And when these barricades are attacked, that's when EKs are called for.
Links being the links to that elongated channel to the left and right.
Yeah, the lines between them being where they connect, basically.
Only to that chamber, or does that count for all?
All of the lines that connect the chambers are the places where they connect.
I meant like fortified. All of them also fortified locations?
No.
Okay. So the Wyvern chamber, is that one? That connection fortified?
No.
That's dangerous.
Correct.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
And yeah, this central chamber was Outpost 2. That's where most of the harvesting happens for like the actual saltpeter and things like that. This is referred to as like the well or the basin. This is where a lot of water collects into pools. There's lots of like underground, kind of like underground shellfish and things like that live in these chambers. And this chamber is marked by Vesper as being essentially sealed off by the engineers because they're working on a project that basically like takes up these 3 chambers right now, but this one is sealed to her. She can't go in there.
Okay, so that's under the cultivation grounds.
Yeah.
And like sealed off to her
Because engineers are
in
allowed in there. Yeah. The plan for the engineers is they're trying to divert water into specific channels in order to create a gold bell mushroom farm, because right now Outpost 2 is like they wait for mushrooms to reach maturity naturally and they take only what they can in order to keep the ecosystem intact. This offshoot chamber is them trying to create like a hydroponics type thing, essentially, in order to more mass produce the gunpowder from the mushrooms that is being used in artillery shells and things like that. But that is the map as it is given to you.
And in terms of like mushroom growth, the kind of mushroom growth for my kind of explosive plan is only big enough in that one central chamber, or is it all throughout and just in that chamber? It's very
yeah. So there are gold bell mushrooms throughout the entire cave system. It's just that Outpost 2 is the central sort of area where they grow from, so the heart of the mushroom colony, essentially. And that's why it's there. That's where most of them are. The settlement at the top of the Mesa Plateau is Cauldrus. I'll type it out. And that settlement's been there for quite some time. It would have been abandoned if not for the interest Empress had in the mushrooms underneath the caverns, and therefore a lot of military personnel, peacekeepers, are put here in Cauldrus to man the anti-air and artillery weaponry emplacements and stuff that keeps it safe from the miasmic that are at the northern border of the wastes. That's pretty much the information that's given to you in the little packet by Sky that you're going over right now.
Ed here is absolutely having fun drawing little wyverns and mushrooms.
I did wonder who it was.
It's designed like a Metroidvania.
It is a bit.
This is my strength.
Oh, there's one thing I didn't mention, which is this connecting tunnel is known as the ossified tunnels. They're essentially tunnels of bone that connect these 2 chambers that people don't really understand.
Okay. What do you mean tunnels of bone?
They are large tubular tunnel systems that are made of bone. The outside lining is bone. It is some sort of animal bone, perhaps. It's not human bone, but it is bone. They are not connected together in a way that makes people think it's like an arm of a creature that's been buried. It's more like a higgledy-piggledy capillary cave system of hollow bone.
Okay.
Correct. Bone zone is correct.
Now the well has a lot of water in it?
It sure does.
Okay. How much of it is submerged do we know, or can we tell from the map? Any notes?
Anything to the left and right of the central column is like 50% water pockets that you need to swim through. It's a lot of swimming on the left and right. Down the middle, it's not so bad because most of the water is diverted these two directions. With only, it's more like dripping rain through the central column, and the well collects most of it, which they've put pumps in to take it up to the surface to make sure the Outpost 2 never floods or anything like that. So that's how that works. Sky's plan is basically to go down to the bottom of the waterfall caves and then look for the any openings that might lead to these theoretical chambers, because that's where she thinks it's most likely something could go wrong, where Vesper would get lost. But that's after you guys have spent some time in the settlement seeing what people know of Vesper.
Now, the theoretical chambers is what also may hold the artifacts.
Yeah, so she believed that there was some sort of ancient city under the ground here, or maybe like an ancient settlement of some type. That is what she was searching for, and what she believed the theoretical chambers either contained or had an entrance to.
Okay. Given the amount of water we are facing, is it still possible to make a shopping trip?
Yeah, of course, yeah. You have one more day.
She did mention we were beginning rebreathers.
Yes, there would be gear that would be supplied to you. She's not expecting you to hold your breath.
Oh, no, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about watertight rucksacks, or like backpacks, and like swimming clothes.
Yeah, no, that kind of stuff would be supplied to you. You wouldn't have to worry about that. Sky would have taken care of that, and she would have told you that when you guys were discussing it.
Okay. In that case, I'll be going to the dude, the quartermaster, and just picking up generally energy dense food that I can maybe like cook a little bit together for as rations along the way.
Kendall,
so in general, tons of raisins and nuts as per the usual, but like also for the joy on the way, pasta with oil and spices.
Yeah, the train has a kitchen, so you'll be able to cook there as well.
Like generally take rations with us.
Yeah. Stuff you can pack away for inside the caves for sure.
Yeah. However much that costs.
From the quartermaster, it wouldn't be anything. He'd be able to supply that.
Okay. So yeah, I'll take.
Sky
I'll
thinks,
say
Sky
a week's
thinks,
worth.
Yeah, Sky thinks you'll be down there for at most a week, and that might not be underground the full week. You might be down there for a few days, come back up, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so like worst case scenario, a week. I can carry that kind of stuff. I have the endurance for it.
Okay. You go shopping for supplies. Anyone got anything they want to work out, ask Sky or anything like that?
Not immediately.
No. In which case, should we call it there, and then you guys have got next week to talk to Wald about what happened and whether he's got anything you'd like to know and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sure.
All right. We'll close it off there then. All right. I'll leave the map as well for you. I do have my own drawn one, which I might put over the top of this as well. But I mean, I kind of like what's there anyway. I think this is good enough, to be honest. So, yeah. All right. I'll close down the stream. Bye bye.
Bye bye.